Hi everyone.
Hello, hello.
Thanks for joining us today. We are Emma and Ruta. We host a marketing podcast called Blame It on Marketing, where we talk about all of the crappy things that we get blamed for in marketing. You might have seen us over at the confession wall near the press booth. So if you have any confessions that you want to share with anyone after this session, please come over and talk to us. Our session today is all about the kind of pressures that we feel as marketers and also why we sometimes get blamed for stuff. And hopefully, if we do our job properly, we will be able to talk you through some of the ways in which you can counteract some of that in your day-to-day job.
By the way, you do have headphones, so if you can't quite hear us, put your headphones on and it'll be a little bit clearer. Just should be on the back of your chairs. Cool. So, to kick the session off, we thought we'll do some marketing confessions. So I'm going to say one, and Emma's going to say one. And also, at some point, you guys are going to have to talk to each other, so just brace yourselves. Should I start?
Go for it.
Yeah. So my marketing confession is that I recently got fired from a client where I was the fractional CMO because they spent £500,000 selling the wrong product. But the fun tidbit is that 6 months before that, I told them not to sell that product, but obviously they ran out of money and they can't pay me anymore. So that's my confession.
Shame. My marketing confession is less spicy, maybe. But when we are doing the podcast, we obviously invite lots of different people on. We love to have people who are doing the day job. So anyone who is listening to this who's like, oh, I fancy going on, do chat to us afterwards. But I was talking to 3 different people who were all called Jen at the same time. And one of them was a sales influencer. She's quite famous, I guess, in sales influencing land. And I got all 3 of the Jens mixed up over email. And the one that I managed to piss off was the influencer. And I basically tried to book a meeting in her diary, and I got a very terse message back, basically being like, stop wasting my time, you joker. I have tried to apologize. She's still not speaking to me, but maybe by the next time we do this talk, she might be.
You never know.
Here's hoping.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Right, so on to the main topic of conversation.
Yes.
So I'm sure lots of you are feeling this. I'm guessing that's why you're here. This is a bit of a therapy session, so we will have a chance to talk to you all in a bit. But Ruta, I want to get from your perspective, why do you think there is more and more pressure piled on marketers, in particular at the moment?
Twofold. One is boring. The economy is not great right now. We all know that. I'm not going to harp on. But I think the other side is that marketing is adding more and more and more onto its specialisms. And I think a lot of marketers are now being expected to know how to be the graphic designer, the video editor, the strategist, the copywriter, the whatever, all for £35,000 a year, by the way, just to top all of that off. So I think it's that expansion of what marketing is, and then a shitty economy where no one wants to spend money, because obviously to get sales, you don't need to do marketing. I don't know how that works, but it's a culmination of those things. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think there's still quite a lot of mistrust around what marketers do. I'm sure you've all felt this. Depending on who it is you report into, I think CEOs, heads of sales, again, their jobs are just getting bigger and bigger and bigger as well. And I think the pressure is on all of us. And I feel like what's happening is, as it says on the tin, we are getting the finger pointed at us. I think also, our budgets are being cut. I think that is part of that economic growth boring bit that you talked about. And our budgets are cut, but we're expected to deliver the same. So how do you do more and more and more and more with less and less and less and less? Which is a really hard position to find ourselves in. Obviously, we're at a marketing tech conference. I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, just buy more tech, it's all good. But actually, there are other things that we think that you can do, which we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, those for me are the big ones, I think.
So how does that all culminate in us getting blamed for many things?
I think that we get blamed because it's easy, right? We are one of the big cost centers in any business. So it doesn't matter what you do. We cost the most money, and that's not necessarily us as marketers. Let's be honest, we all wish we got paid a bit more. But in terms of like advertising spend, that's gone up, that's gone through the roof. Your MarTech, sorry guys, it's also gone through the roof. Everybody's put their subscription prices up because they've had to. Hello, thanks Canva. And that means that it's harder and harder for us to show tangible ROI with what we're doing. The other thing that's happened is the buying journey has completely changed. So if you work in particular in B2B tech or professional services, you will know this firsthand. It's not the same as it used to be, where you could just stick an ebook out there into the universe and everyone downloads it, and the next thing you know, you're following up with a load of leads and they convert. It's just not that journey anymore. People want to, hear from customers. They want to see your content. They want to be able to have contact with your founder, all of those sorts of things.
Or just go on your website and check out and not talk to anyone, which doesn't happen a lot in serious B2B tech. So that buyer journey is kind of mismanaged. I think the other thing as well is I don't want to say the kind of people that are in marketing are fun, creative people, but we tend to be perceived as that. So when it comes to kind of who's doing the hardest work, the most important work, the most impact, sometimes we get looked at as the fun, nice team to have. So when we're running an awareness campaign and everyone knows it's an awareness campaign and then it doesn't generate leads, everyone's like, well, where are the leads? Why did you spend this money? It's like, no, we said we're not doing that thing. So there's just that kind of, I don't know, it's not a seniority problem, it's just a how seriously we're taken problem, and then it just feels like we're the scapegoat for stuff.
Yeah, it's like a historic, and actually, shockingly, I've heard quite a few people come up to our marketing confession stand with a very outdated view of marketing. So there's been a few people that have come up and said, oh, you guys are just all about sparkle, and we've had to have a sit down, and say, no, we do love, the sparkle, but, our job is about more than that. So, those outdated opinions still exist for us all. We all still are fighting against that. That's quite challenging at times. But I will also say this, please don't kill me after this, but sometimes we are the problem. And we are. Yeah. We sometimes get terrified of having those really important ROI conversations with senior leaders. They're very difficult, they're not easy. Sometimes we have terrible relationships with our sales leaders in particular, and we're terrified of having a confrontational sit down where we go, hang on a sec, we're on the same team here, guys, we should have the same goals. So there's an aspect of the world has changed, but also what do we need to do as marketers to make sure that we stay on the front foot and we are not frightened and terrified of some of these really big, important conversations that we should be having with our leaders. Totally understand that's not easy, but we've got to try, well, actually, we're going to talk about that in a sec, how we actually start to have some of those conversations. How do you actually start to broach some of this stuff with people? So Ruta,
excellent segue.
Nice segue, thanks. How, if you were having those kind of conversations with someone internally and you were feeling like you were getting blamed, where would you start?
Don't get defensive is my personal advice. I definitely went through a phase of that when I was a little bit earlier in my career, I should say. The most important thing for me is to truly understand what their problem is. So pretend you're a bit of a psychologist when this happens, right? So, oh my God, the pipeline's down, everything's fallen apart, it's all hell and fire. Really dig into where their pressures are coming from, where their perceptions are coming from, and what they know about marketing, because you might have insights into your own numbers and into your own activity that they don't have. So when you understand where they're from, and then you can actually be like, oh, well, hey, our data says this, or we've done this, or this is the indicators that we have, you can have a much nicer conversation, but you do have to do that. Taking it on and listening bit first and being the bigger person or whatever that is, I think that's a place we all need to get to. And as marketers, we're usually quite good at communication, so hopefully we can get there, I think, sometimes, except if you get defensive like me. What about you, Ems?
Yeah, definitely not being defensive. It's very difficult to do. I mean, top tip, always do not reply to the email straight away. Always wait. And if you need to have a sit down with someone, definitely also wait. I think, annoyingly, we do have to be the people who over-communicate. So rather than shying away and saying oh, for God's sake, why do they not just get what I do? I think you have to, take a different mindset, which is that, of course, they don't understand what I do. They have a different job to me. They maybe have never done my job before. They don't really understand where I'm coming from. They don't understand my perspective.
But they think they know how to do your job, and that's the fun bit.
That's frustrating. But if you can try and sit down and have those difficult conversations early on, nip it in the bud, then you will find usually there is some common ground. Also, as Ruta said, I think there is those people are being piled on pressure from elsewhere, maybe they're VC backed or they got PE money or their pipeline's down. And if that is happening, everybody's freaking out, the board are breathing down their neck, the chairman of the board is like having a go, so everybody is having a hard time. So not just you. So you have to try and come at it from that perspective. Not always easy to do, especially if they are also acting very defensive, which is sometimes what you get back.
Yeah.
I think some of the other things you can do are, for example, and we hear this a lot with one-person marketing teams or teams that are really small, is that you're not getting objectives set from the business. So there is nothing. I know that there have been some other talks about good objective setting, so follow those rules. But if you are not getting from your senior leaders, like these are the things that we expect from marketing, this is the revenue we expect from you, this is the pipeline, this is what we actually tangibly think you guys can do as marketing to contribute to the business, you kind of have to set those goals yourself. And sometimes they might not need to be as big as like, what's the revenue goal? Because, I mean, honestly, if your business isn't doing that, there's a problem. But if you set yourself some achievable goals, then you feel like you are making progress. So even if it is things like as basic as, I want to run a marketing experiment this month, I'm going to do something really small and I'm going to see what the outcome is, and that's your goal, you've at least got something that proves there's progress, and then you have some data to report back on to people.
Yeah, and I think speaking of data, again, not going to bore you to death with needing data, but know your numbers. And one thing about knowing your numbers, is you might feel afraid to talk about ROI, for example, because maybe it's not good. But also you need to know what good looks like to you. So we speak to lots of people that have lots of very wild expectations of how much money marketing needs to return. They'll be running marketing in first year and they'll want 5x on their spend on a product they've never even took it to market. But you need to be able to say, hey, no, that's not how this works. If we double our money, we're doing far better than any market you can invest in. And just knowing things like that so you can confidently say what's an expectable and reasonable thing for you to achieve is really powerful. And if you don't know what those numbers are and you don't know what to benchmark against, again, you're having that conversation in blindness, and you might accept goals that are completely just going to screw you over in the end, and you're going to be the one to suffer. That got very dark very quickly. You see what I'm trying to say here? Yeah.
Something else that I think everyone hates in marketing, but I think people should probably do a bit more of, is implement processes that help you maintain boundaries with your colleagues. I'm on the confessions wall. There are so many people who are saying like, oh, I'm just so fed up of people saying like, can you just do this now for me? Or we don't care about what campaign you're working on. Like, we need you to do this because this is about new business. This is about sales. But actually, there are processes you can put in place that help you maintain boundaries with people. So things, for example, really simple things, blocking out your calendar and giving yourself time to do focus work is so important. I know people are still going to come along and say, hey, can I have a call with you? But actually, if your response is, no, I'm busy, you're not being helpful. But if your response is, actually, I'm really sorry, I'm working on some focus work right now, but actually we could meet on Tuesday at 2 o'clock, whatever, then you are offering up solutions to people. Sounds like very basic stuff, but it really does, trust me, it will change your life. Also things like just really basic stuff, like making sure that you have a marketing plan that is visible to the entire business. Terrifying, because you may not want people to comment on what it is you're trying to do as a marketer. But it's the same as like a product guy. How many of us moan at product people because there's no product roadmap, right? It's really bloody annoying, but imagine how annoying it is when nobody knows what marketing you're doing. So same principle applies. Be really transparent, be open, be over-communicative. Make sure you have those boundaries and processes in place that allow you the time to actually do your work. If you don't have time to do your work, you're going to get blamed for stuff because nothing ever gets out the door. And then the final thing I'd add on that point about processes is one of the biggest things that railroads marketing is people swooping in. We call them a swoop and pooper.
Swoop and poop.
Is that they swoop in on you and you are in the middle of something, whether it's content or you're trying to get a social post out, and they go, nah, I didn't approve that, I didn't sign that off, I don't want you to do that. And actually, if you build in a process from the outset, which is about how do you get things across the line, so boring, so sorry everyone, but if you do that from the outset with your SMEs or your CEO, whoever it is that needs to sign stuff off, you will get stuff out the door in a timely manner. You won't have to necessarily go through all of the rounds of approval. The other thing that we've done actually when we worked internally together was to categorize content. So it's kind of like following a product roadmap principle, rocks, paper, rocks, sand, and pebbles. So if it's really big, yeah, your CEO's got to sign it off. If it's a pebble, it's small, it might need like your subject matter expert or your customer success person to have a look and go, yeah, that's right, cool, off it goes out the door. And if it's sand, nobody but the marketing team needs to see it, and it can just go out the door. But if you get that process nailed down and get all of your stakeholders bought into that process from the outset, you're going to have way less problems trying to get stuff out the door.
Absolutely.
Anything else you'd add?
Oh, so much good stuff. I think just a lot of the time when you work with people that don't understand marketing, you can start to feel a little bit crazy, like you don't know what your job is and you don't know what you're doing, or you don't feel confident in yourself. You probably 99.9% of the time do, so just have that within yourself and have the ownership to say no to things, or to explain to people why it is that we're doing this way or this way, and you're not crazy, you're fine, you know how to do your job. You just remember that, because it can, over long periods of time of doing that, it can really eat into your self-confidence, and then that F's up any marketing you're going to do anyway. So just know that you know what you're doing, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. My final thing to avoid blame is going to be consistent, regular reporting. Again, very boring, takes up all of our time, and sometimes we feel like we might not be able to report on the right metrics because we may not have the tech stack of dreams. But whatever you can report on that is tangible, that shows that there is ROI to what you're doing, that you are contributing to the bottom line, that you are contributing to pipeline, and you report that regularly, and you bring people into those conversations, and you open that up, and you share that with the sales team or sales leadership, your CEO, whoever else needs to know. Again, you can have better conversations.
And when Emma says consistent, she doesn't only just mean do it at a consistent interval, report the same shit every time.
Same stuff.
Don't change your metrics around. Don't pick out what looks good this month, because it just confuses people because they have zero context on what you're talking about. You can have like a fun sprinkle at the end of your normal stuff, but just report the same stuff over and over, so you're always having that same conversation, and people are like, glued in their head exactly what you mean when you say this is what an MQL means, or whatever words you use. I'm not going to argue about that today. That they just know the same thing, and you're talking about the same thing every time. Awesome.
So,
everyone ready?
It's the time where you now all have to talk to each other. Sorry. So what we like to do on our podcast is have the marketing confession. So what we would love it for you to do is, what we will ask you to do is turn to the person next to you or behind you or wherever, you might need to get a bit closer together, and confess your biggest marketing fuck up to one another. So confess your sins for 2 minutes, swap confessions, and then we will do a little switcheroo again. And then what we would like everybody to do is, if anyone has heard a particularly good confession, is to come forward and share with everybody here what the confession is, and maybe what you might do differently. So, you've got 2 minutes, turn to the person next to you, and swap your confessions. Go. Or run away.
Oh, they're that bad. How are we doing on time?
Good.
Yeah. Oh, okay. VIP.
Okay, you have 1 minute left to confess your sins before we ask you to switch around.
Switch.
Okay, everyone. Confession time is over. Okay. Everyone good? Everyone good? Yeah? Everyone feeling a little bit better, a bit lighter, hopefully? Depends what you did, I don't know. So, if you could now all find someone else, maybe someone you don't know, to introduce yourself to and to confess your sins to, you've got another 2 minutes. Off you go. Find someone else. Don't be shy.
You can have a trio. I don't think they temperature control. I don't think they temperature control.
No, I know.
It's so warm.
Okay, you have 1 minute left to confess your sins to your new friends. Yeah. 30 seconds on the clock.
You're ready.
Okay, and your time is up. I really feel like I should get a job as a game show host. I'm loving this vibe.
So, we have somebody with a mic that would love to hear your confessions. If you want to nominate a confession, like you heard one and you want to retell it, or you want to tell your own, that would be amazing if you can stick your hand up. If anyone has anything to nominate or to talk about. Oh, we're shy. Somebody needs to kick off. Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's going to run. She's not going to run.
A little relay there.
Hiya. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's probably my first marketing job as a graduate. It's for a hospitality company, and I did a newsletter, and I accidentally put in the wrong price for this room, just by £1 less. And then when it went out there, I had to fess up to the GMs and be like, I've made a mistake. Would you honour this price? They were, yeah, sure. I was like, thank you.
Oh.
So yeah, so that was a biggie for me as a graduate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the start off. It was like a big biggie kind of thing. So
How did you recover? Were they good to you?
they were good to me.
Good.
And I remember quite early on in that, I remember one of my GMs coming up to me and says, you need to earn your penny. And I was like, oh. So after a couple of years, I did earn his respect over the years being there. So it was a good job, a good marketing staff assistant job that I started with. So yeah.
Oh,
Excellent.
brilliant.
I think it deserves a round of applause. First confession.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
who's next?
Somebody. We've got like 100 on the wall. Come on, someone wants to tell us something.
Come on.
Email, PPC. What's the classics? Deleted half of a database. What we got? Thank
Okay.
you.
I was the digital marketing specialist at the time, and I did a lot of emails, and I did also marketing, but I sent a lot of regulatory emails at the same time. I once accidentally sent a very, and I mean a very, very strongly worded email to customers who should not have received that email. It did not go down great. I did send an apology email within 10 minutes. I was like, oh, made a mistake. Oh well, let's move on. Management did not see it that way, and they were very much like, does he need to go on a performance plan? I was like, not really. I've done this for about 6 years now. Like, I know what I'm doing. It was a genuine mistake. But in the end, they were all fine, and it was like lessons learned kind of thing. But yeah, kind of sit there in that little shame bubble, don't you, when you're like, sent the email to the wrong people. Oh dear.
God, compliance is something else. Like, if you've ever worked with HR people, the meticulousness to like the spelling and everything, like no mistakes can be made at all.
Well done. Round of applause for you. Excellent. Any more?
We're just going to sit here and awkwardly stare at you until you tell us stuff, so, you know.
Or you can ask us a question, up to you.
Yeah. Back on to number one, please.
Have you got any confessions yourselves?
I mean, yeah.
I'm trying to think of the second maybe worst thing that I've ever done. Is it? I don't know.
I'm really known for a spelling mistake. Like, they just find me. So last year when we did the confessions wall for the first time, I had written out loads of stuff in like handwriting on Blackboard, and there was just so many spelling mistakes. So for the first half of the day, people just kept coming up to me being like, oh, do you know there's a spelling mistake over there? And I just had to go in and like do little check marks and just add letters into places. And it's fairly embarrassing because, you know, when you're meant to be a marketing director, people think you can spell, but not me.
No.
Not me.
I think my ex-colleague is over here, so she might appreciate this. I have definitely been that marketer that, you know, like you do a campaign, you generate loads of leads, you're like patting yourself on the back, aren't we amazing? You've got your ICP, so you're like, look at all these amazing leads, they all meet our ICP. I'm going to put them all as MQLs, and I'm going to hand them over to sales. And then sales are like, these are dog shit, what are they? And do nothing with them. So I've been that person who has been mad at salespeople for not following up with MQLs that probably weren't good enough. Is that all right?
Yeah.
She's like, what? You did what?
Never. That never happened. MQL who? Any other confessions or questions?
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Oh, we can now.
You're on now, yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm just interested about your podcast. What was the motivation behind setting that up, and how long have you been doing it for?
So Ruta and I used to work in-house together as marketers. She was my boss.
I didn't see it that way.
And the company that we worked for successfully sold, and then we all decided we didn't want to work for the company that acquired us. Bit awkward.
No surprise.
And so we went off and became marketing consultants. And while we were doing that, you know, we were coming up against the same challenges with each of our clients time and time again, and constantly bitching and moaning at each other. And we were like, actually, because we're consultants, we kind of have a bit of a luxury where we can like very publicly talk about some of the crap that happens, because we have nice clients that won't fire us if we say things. So yeah, that's it. And then we built the community because we wanted to have a place for other marketers to kind of come together and feel like they can talk shit with us and talk about how hard their job is.
Yeah. So if you do want to check us out, self-promotion, I'm sorry everyone, blameitoonmarketing.com. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
We are nearly out of time. Are there any more questions or confessions or anything that anyone wants to ask us? No? Okay.
You can also ask us after, or at our
At the
stand right at the
confessions
front.
wall.
You'll see a blackboard with lots of scribbles on it.
And we are holding another session at 2:05 on the marketing campaign stage, which is far more structured. We're not going to make people talk to each other. Where we are talking about how to get sign-off for your campaign. So getting into a bit of the detail, some of the stuff we talked about now at 2:05 on the marketing campaign stage. So we hope to see you there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.